Hey everybody, I'm Jane, and you're listening to the Medium Curious podcast, the show that wants you to know that those pets, all of those animals and creatures that you have as companions are actually angels in fur and feather bodies. But you already knew that. Today I want to talk about signs from pets in spirit for this little Sunday solo. And I probably would have talked about this anyway, but I happen to have had a really tragic week. For those longtime listeners know that the dogs under the desk are Kalea and Domino and Trixie in California. And my sweet Domino crossed the Rainbow Bridge a few days ago. And I wasn't sure if it was a good idea for me to open a mic and talk about it, but a lot of really amazing things have happened this week that I wanted to share, because I know there are others of you who have suffered losses of your pets. And if your heart is breaking like mine is, I hope this will be comforting. And or you've been through a loss, and or inevitably, if you have a pet, this loss is coming. And so I just want to share some of the beautiful things that happened and some of the signs that he sent through to me this week. So I won't say too much about his crossing other than it was relatively sudden. It was quite sudden. He had a diagnosis one day and he was on the other side the other day. But what was super beautiful throughout the process was that I have a friend who basically taught me how to communicate with pets, animals, both in spirit and on this side. And she was the first one to communicate with Domino. Gosh, is that 2 years ago now, Chelsea? How long ago was that? This is a really magical human that she bought a reading from me, and we met, and she overheard Domino in the background. He was kind of rolling around and making these like Wookiee sounds. And she's like, hey, I am, she was in training at that time. I'm a pet communicator and I'm doing practice sessions. Would you like one? And I was like, what? Yes, of course. So some of y'all have heard me talk about this here on the pod, but for new listeners, I'll just share this backstory. So she tuned in to Domino. She was in California. I was in Hawaii and with Dom, and she came back with the most incredible evidence. Like it was mind blowing stuff, y'all. Like, for example, first of all, she talked about a lot of logistical stuff that was spot on. Like he really appreciates the fact that we filter our water for him, which just cracked me up because I was like, what do you mean? Who doesn't give their dog filtered water? I mean, isn't that a thing? She was like, no, not everyone does that. And so he also talked about, really, really clear evidence talking about Kalea, our other dog, and how she is. And he talked about my son and myself and my husband. So just to give you a tiny bit of the evidence that she pushed through, and there were a bunch more. And I'll just share the biggest, most extraordinary one. So my son was little. He was like, learning to talk. And he would say, instead of saying thank you, he would say Kiko. And it was so stinking cute. And we would kind of joke, like maybe this was like a Japanese girlfriend from a past life or something, like who's Kiko? But so for the longest time, we kept saying it like, I don't know if y'all do this with your families, but you drag out the cute words that your kids substitute for real words or whatever. So Kiko, honestly, we still say it. The kid's 16. And, anyway, so on the tape, so the way Chelsea works, generally, I think she does in-person ones now too, but she does them basically by opening up a mic and recording a 20, 30, 40-minute talk where she's talking to your animal, and it is a conversation that she's explaining to you. He just said this, he just said that. So that's what I was listening to when she conveyed that he told her that we say thank you in Japanese. Isn't that crazy? And it's like, well, first of all, how did he even understand any of that? Like how closely our dogs and cats and creatures track us, and like how super ridiculously smart they are, and how like he was able to convey kind of such a complicated topic. I mean, y'all, I met this person once, and there is no world where this information was being passed around in any other format other than telepathically from my dog to her across an ocean. Right. So that was the beginning of my mind blown, kind of experience. And then so to Chelsea, I said, I'd like to try this. Obviously I was already a medium at that point and communicating with folks on the other side. And I said, oh gosh, this is really amazing. I'd like to try it. And she goes, great. Here's 2 horses and 2 dogs. Pick one, So I said, I'd love to chat to a horse. Anyway, long story short, because I have shared about this quite at some length, both here on the podcast, and also on my Substack. So I'll link the whole big, long story of the chat I had with her horse. But suffice it to say, that horse was coming through with like the most amazing evidence. First of all, Rosie told me that she was 8. And she told me about her injuries, and she told me all this like very precise, specific evidence that as I was doing the same kind of, how do you say it? Like non sequitur? No, asynchronous. That's what I would call that reading, asynchronous, because we're not together. So I recorded it for her. And I said, oh my gosh, your horse just said she's 8. And she said that she has this saddle sore or this, pain under the hoof, but it's all fine. And you guys are doing such a good job of taking care of her and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, of course, the really amazing stuff that comes through in these pet readings is all the emotions. So anyway, that began my journey with pet communication. And I have been enthralled and overjoyed and just touched every day by the pets that I get the beautiful opportunity to read for. So back to my sweet Domino. Obviously, as y'all know, it's just such a love affair that we have with these animals. I mean, they're like I said earlier, they're like angels in bodies. And my perspective is that they are like love templates. They're like little love bombs. And of course, they have their quirky personalities and all of their stuff that they have to experience in a body, just like us humans do too. So like, let's imagine that we are pure light, pure love, pure beauty, and we come into a body and we engage with and we inherit a personality, and that personality has its quirks and its weirdness and its drama, right? And so there's always this kind of conversation, and we talk about this a lot here, between like the higher self who's like got the bigger picture and gets it and that wants to run only love. And then there's the personality and the human self who's like, meh, and freaking out and pissed off and whatever. So I believe it's also true with animals, is that they still have to engage with, and sync up with a personality, but they are, pure love consciousness coming in. And what I'd heard recently from a pet in spirit that I did a reading for, something so beautiful that just has been blowing my mind ever since. And I can't help but believe that this reading came, only about a month before Domino's crossing. And the timing is pretty stunning. And what this dog told me was that we have death all wrong. That humans are pretty dumb when it comes to understanding what death is. And she pushed through that death is a celebration of life. And I'm direct quoting this reading. I just looked it back up. She said, it's not sad. It's not sad. And part of what she also conveyed is that humans suck at grief. Okay, I'm not direct quoting her on the suck, but that we don't really know how she said it directly. I'll quote her again: is grief is something humans don't like to feel. And as a person in active, overwhelming grief, I'm gonna +1 that. Nobody likes to cry all day and have a puffy face and have snot flowing as I have all week. Nobody likes that. And I think the loss is so brutal. I mean, it just cracks us, like there've been many times this week where I'm like, I'm not going to freaking survive this. Right. And I know many of you have suffered excruciating losses of all types. And so you understand this perfectly. And what's interesting is, sometimes there's like a minimizing, I think, of animal loss versus human loss. And I know that our listeners are such big-hearted, extraordinary humans that they probably aren't those people who think that way. But I just want to offer especially having witnessed one of my best friends on island go through an excruciating loss this year of her soul dog. It's brutal. It's the same. It's grief in its most pure form because these doggies are so pure. And to get back to the point that I don't think I finished making is like they do have to kind of like inhabit a body and inhabit a personality, but they don't, I feel like they have less static than we do. Like they're just love. They are pure love and they are here to love and they let go of trauma quicker. And we've had a couple of pet communicators on. And so I imagine you guys have listened to those episodes. And most recently, Nikki Vasquez, who, God, I love that conversation with her. And she talked about this exact thing that like, you know, it's about, they're so in the moment that it's really better to not keep talking about their trauma because that's not what they're thinking about. And that's exactly what this dog that I did the reading for was saying to me. He's like, she said, part of our job as dogs is to invite the grief. And then she said, why do you think our lives are so short? And she was an exceptionally upbeat creature, this dog that I was speaking to. And it was tricky, obviously, because, you know, as a human, we're in all of this grief. But meanwhile, our pets on the other side are like stoked. And this is pretty common in like all medium readings. Like I'll just say many medium readings where the person on the other side is just so overjoyed and happy to be there and trying to transmit that while at the same time being respectful of the grief that the human is in. But it was really cute because she kept saying, it's not sad. It's not sad. Death is a celebration of life. Yeah. So going back to my sweet Domino and to my friend Chelsea. So she and I had actually swapped readings over last weekend because I was feeling a little worried about Domino because he was kind of slowing down and the dude is only 10, right? And so I'm like, what's going on with him? He's kind of losing weight. He's slowing down. So she tuned into Domino for me and I tuned into her senior pup. And we had these amazing readings. I mean, I'll speak for hers. She had such good evidence. She knew that someone was carrying Dom up and down the stairs. That's my husband. And she explained how he feels when he gets carried up and down the stairs. And it was so freaking sweet. Something about like his heart expanding and just feeling pure love for my husband. And so that was so touching because, you know, it doesn't look like he's real comfortable getting carried up and down. He's a pretty big dog. And then he also described for her that he sits by the fire. So in this house where we live now, there's one of those like kind of cheesy, but kind of awesome fires that you can click on with a switch. It's kind of great. And anyway, so especially because Dom was getting skinny, I was kind of like getting him in front of the fire, getting him all cozy and warming him up. So he described that to her, right? So anyway, he did not indicate that he was going to leave shortly. So she had probably intuited something else was going to happen because she said to me, just text me if anything else is going on. Just be sure to be in touch. So as things got really dire, I reached out to her and I said, things have changed dramatically and here's what's happening. And so she tuned in and I wanted to share this with y'all because it was so exceptionally helpful to hear this communication come through while he was in the process of transitioning. And it was so exquisitely helpful, you guys. It was so incredible. He said, I'm already in transition and he has no fear. And he said, we were wondering, like, what's even happening? Is he really transitioning? We could feel that he was. And then she said, he's already on the journey. And I had asked her the question, like, should we assist him, meaning euthanasia? And I know this is such a big topic and a lot of pet owners really struggle over this. Do we go to the vet and get the injection and help him over? And I did not want to because our last amazing dog, Angel on Earth, Bongo, when we went through that process, I kind of thought I was going to die. Like, it was so excruciatingly painful. I was like, I don't want to do that again. So I thought maybe we would let him cross naturally. But he told her that, he wasn't opposed to assistance, that he wasn't in pain because he was already in his soul body. And he was showing her like running around on the other side and joyfully like wrestling with other dogs and being so happy to be out of pain. But to be clear, y'all, he was still on earth and she was seeing all of this. So this was the day he crossed. She left this voice for us. And then she shared, and this is so beautiful. So we just moved here, as many of you know, 4 months ago. And it was a really big project to get him over here, as it was for Kalea, our other dog. It's a big project to move dogs and fly them and all this stuff, right? And I had an intuition earlier in the year, like, is he even going to make it over there? Because he'd had surgery, blah, blah, blah. But she, again, the amazing Chelsea, had told me that he was down. He was like stoked, like, let's go. So we're like, okay. So we totally made it happen. He was awesome. He was a rock star. We had so many beautiful, happy memories on trails here. And just, he's been really strong, actually, running up and down the stairs, being a total stud. So what he told her was he needed to, and he wanted to check out this awesome new place we call home before he left. So he wanted to check on us, I guess. And then the other thing that really, really touched me that I want to share is that he said, I'm always going to be here. And yeah. So what I experienced the day he crossed, besides crushing pain, was that I couldn't feel him and I couldn't sense him. And I was like, oh no, and I think this is, again, really common. Like, when our people leave, we want signs right away. We want clarity that they're communicating with us. We need signs. We need, and then like 2 mornings later, I woke up and it's that early morning dread feeling where you remember that something terrible has happened, but you don't know what it is. And then you remember and you're like, shit. And, you look over at the bed and he's not there, his little doggy bed. So I was kind of coming to, and I tried communicating with him. And I was like, Domino, what is going to be your sign? What is going to be your sign? And he said, rainbows. And this makes perfect sense because back 1.5 years ago, the first reading, Chelsea said, he said, you love rainbows, and rainbows are a big sign from spirit, which of course is completely true. And is true for a lot of people. But he said he personally loves rainbows. And then like later that day, I found this incredible picture of him sitting on the beach with a rainbow over him. And I sent that to her. So he said rainbows. And then he also said Kiko, which of course was from the story I told before of him saying thank you in Japanese, which is how our family does it. So I'm thinking, how on earth is he going to get Kiko through as a sign? You know what I mean? Like, that's not an easy sign. Rainbows, yes, we can get that done. So anyway, I'm kind of coming in and out of sleep and my own grief state and whatnot. So later that day, Chelsea and I are engaging again. And she says, I didn't get a chance to tell you, but he told me that rainbows is one of his signs. Right? I mean, come on, y'all. That's crazy. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. And sure enough, like a minute later, I have like one of those rotating, images things on my iPhone, and it pulls like really beautiful pictures and shows them to me. And right then it pulled not the one I sent Chelsea back when, but a different picture of Domino with a rainbow behind him. And it was 222, which is significant numbers with Kira and just spirit in general. So here he is presenting rainbow with 222. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I mentioned to Chelsea, I said, I think I'm going to be opening up a mic and talking about signs from spirit from pets. And I want to tell this story. Are you okay with that? And she said, of course. And then I wanted to link her website for y'all so you can get readings too. And she said, oh, here's my website. And it's, it's like a single page. And at the very bottom of the page, she had the story of Domino and Kiko. So That's how he managed to get Kiko through on that same day. So yeah, they're very fancy, these animals. They can get these signs through. I have, tons of stories from that beautiful. Do y'all remember Karen Crawford? She was like in season 1. For those of you who've been with us for a long time, she's that amazing physician turned astrologer. And she had this beautiful dog named Gromit who crossed to the other side. And I had the benefit of doing a reading with him. And he uses rainbows as well. And he also managed to push through a sign where she spotted this. And I think it was on his death day. And she saw a cloud that looked exactly like him. You guys, seriously. And I'm dying because I looked at the cloud and it's not like, oh, that's good for her. I hope she feels better. Not at all. Like the cloud looks like the dog, 100. So, anyway, I have all of these in essays, like the pictures of Gromit and the cloud and all that. And I'll put all of these in the show notes so you can take a look because it's just incredible. These animals are so exquisite. They're so special. And as we've heard from that one I just chatted to, they're grief specialists. They're teaching us humans how to grieve. And, obviously, I am in it to win it. It is impossible because he always sits, the dog under the desk is because he was under my desk. He's right next to me all the time. And then I got a little worried about my other pup because it's 22 minutes in, guys. I just noticed that. I could feel that she didn't realize he was gone. And I was like, oh no, how am I going to explain this to her? And so I did. I said, hey, Kalea, this is in my mind because obviously as a pet communicator, I believe I can telepathically chat to my own pets. And so I chatted to her and she's like, nope, I saw him this morning. He's not. And I tried to say, no, honey, he's on the other side. And she's like, what's that? Which cracked me up. She's like, what's that? And I was like, well, it's where you go when you die. And she goes, nope, I saw him this morning. And so that was the day that I'm telling you about where he managed to push all those signs through. So I was like, well, yeah, she probably did see him here. And so then yesterday I checked in with her again and I was like trying to explain, like, he's not here. He's not coming back. Cause I think she was just looking for him to come back. And to be fair, when we first moved here, I moved here with her first. And then like 2 weeks later, my husband showed up with Domino. So there's precedent. Like it kind of makes sense that he would go away and come back for her. Right. So I told her again, I was like, honey, he's dead. He's no longer here. He's not coming back. And she goes, oh, that's so sad. That's what she said. Oh, that's so sad. I said, I know. She goes, well, that explains why you haven't fed him. I was like, that's why I'm not feeding him because he's not here. She's like, well, I saw him. I see him. That's what she said. So anyway, obviously we're all in our own process, but I hope these stories and these incredible communications from pets on the other side have felt helpful to y'all. I can just offer that just like with humans, it's a little bit of a little brave, a little crazy to reach out to your pet mentally, either with a communicator or just on your own, because you are so deeply connected to that sweet creature. And the trickiest part of trusting a sign from your pets in spirit is to trust it, to just imagine that you heard what you heard and trust it. So when I heard Rainbow and Kiko, I was like, okay. And then he pushed those both through the same exact day. So they're incredible. They're right here with us. And then I just want to leave you with one more thing from Chelsea's reading on the day he died. She said, there's an overwhelming feeling of peaceful and okay feeling. And that soothed me all day, all night, all through this horrible week. Just Chelsea's soothing voice saying, this overwhelming feeling is peaceful. Then she sent me this this Instagram from a friend of hers who had just traveled to Guatemala to take her sweet dog's ashes over to Guatemala because she met that dog in Guatemala like 5 years prior. And she wanted to bring his ashes on the exact day that he died and release his ashes there. You guys, Domino is from Guatemala. He was adopted from there. He was brought to the Bay Area, and that's where we adopted him. He was a street dog. He was like an absolute mess, mange, the whole thing. So when I saw that there was this woman celebrating her dog who crossed, this Guatemalan dog, with the ashes, I'll tell you what, it really helped me because we weren't sure if we should cremate or not. And then we were like, well, we could take his ashes to Hawaii. We could take them to California. That's 2 places he's lived. And then, of course, he lived in Guatemala. We didn't think of it. But you guys, that post, the day that her dog crossed, is the exact day that Domino crossed. Isn't that crazy? So that was kind of sign number 3 because I was feeling a little bit woozy about the cremation. And then, that felt like, okay, I'm proud of myself. I am now finally crying 27 minutes in. That really felt like it was just absolute confirmation that we did the right thing. All right, friends, I do hope this has felt helpful. And I know you share my grief, and I love y'all so much. Like I said, I will put Chelsea's info in the show notes. And I would say, normally I think readings are better after the main grief has passed. But I will say that this was exceptionally helpful in the process. So for whatever that's worth. All right, dear ones, so much love to you and all your creatures and all your people. And I hope you had a super sweet holiday weekend, which we managed to despite the painful nature of it. And I'm sending you all my love. Okay, honeys, talk soon. Love you.
Very Soul is our sponsor for Medium Curious. Jane and I are both Very Soul mediums.
Oh, yes, we are. Verysoul.com, y'all. Inspired by spirit, guided by love, and brought to life by mediums. Medium Curious is made possible
by Jane Morgan Editing.
Sarah Rathke made the amazing music.
And you can help Medium Curious by downloading the episodes.
And the dogs under the desk in Utah are Kalea and Domino.
And Trixie in California.